But you
Yeah.
know what? I got back in the water kite surfing only 2 weeks ago now. I am back. I can now
Oh,
tell that
wonderful.
story that even if you go through brain surgery and the doctor told me I needed to give up all my sports. He said, "No, you're done. You you're over 50, you've had three brain surgeries, it's time to settle down." But that's not me. And I would rather live my life taking some bold risks, being
Yeah.
audacious, as you said,
Yes.
because that is the path that I am taking in my life, and I hope you do too.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, where we're dedicated to helping you live your best audacious life ever. I'm your host, Audley Stevenson, and it's always a pleasure to be here sharing insights and inspirations, and I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us. Now, in today's episode, we're diving deep into the essence of audacity, exploring how we can transform fear into challenge, harness resilience through adversity, and visualize our way to success. Now, I want you to think of life as a mountain range. Each peak represents a goal or dream, while the valleys symbolize the challenges we face, including fear and adversity. And just as a climber must navigate rocky terrain, so too must we confront our fears and setbacks. The key to reaching the summit lies not just in the ascent, but in how we approach each obstacle along the way. Today, we're honored to have Jennie Milton with us. Jennie is an extreme sports enthusiast, a resilience coach, and an inspiring speaker who has faced her own fair share of challenges. From overcoming a serious health crisis to becoming a champion kite surfer, Jennie's journey is a testament to the power of resilience and the importance of sharing our stories. Her mission is to inspire others to embrace their fears and push through adversities to live fully and authentically. Now, her unique experiences and vibrant energy make her the perfect guest for today's conversation. We're going to explore her journey of transformation, the lessons she's learned, and how she uses visualization and celebration of small wins to empower herself and others. So now that we've got the table set, let's jump into our interview with Jennie. Enjoy. Hey, Jennie, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you taking the time to be here, so thank you.
Hi, Audley. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat with you today.
Yes, it's great to have you all the way from Alaska. Thank you. This is awesome.
Yeah, you're probably going, wait, she's in Alaska, but she's got an Aussie accent, right? In case you haven't noticed, I'm actually from down under, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like I like going up north.
So you like the extremes, literally, right? The two extremes, north and south.
Yeah, I'm so blessed and so grateful that I get to experience both sides of the hemisphere, and a lot of different seasons at different times of year.
Yeah.
It's actually winter in Australia right now. My friends are
Oh,
all skiing. If you go on
yeah.
my Facebook post, you see all of my friends skiing in Australia. Yet some of us here in the US are living in a 100+
Yes, yeah.
temperatures. So
I can
it's
tell.
you can always find snow somewhere.
That's it. That's it. That's it. Well, listen, I appreciate you and your snow that you brought today, as well as your lovely energy. It's a fabulous to be able to chat with you here. Here on the Audacious Living Podcast. We really encourage, the spirit of audacity and encourage everyone to, take that next great step. And the beautiful thing about this audacious journey that we all go down, it's very individualized. So, what's on my path is mine, and what's on yours is yours, but yet we're still moving in a forward direction, and that's what's so beautiful about it. So I can go at my own pace, my own speed, as do you as well. And whatever obstacles or challenges are on my path, they're mine, and I've got to own them and overcome them. And the same would be for you. But I think the beautiful thing about it is that the other side of these challenges, these obstacles, the adversities, is where all the greatness lies, and that's sort of the really exciting part about all this. And so, maybe as a starting point, because I'm sure our listeners would love to learn a little bit about you and your journey. What's got you to the point that you're at now, and talk about the work that you're doing. And I know all the extreme sports that you're a part of. Well, I'm sure our listeners will appreciate hearing from you on that.
Well, thank you so much. I'd love to share. I grew up in Australia. My brother and I must have been some of the luckiest kids in the world because our parents had a sports store. They were entrepreneurs and they sold different types of sporting equipment. So in the wintertime, we would go skiing. In the summertime, we would sail and windsurf. And then every couple of months, we would get into the latest craze. So my brother and I were always riding bikes, rollerblades, skateboards. I mean, if it had wind or wheels, we were into it,
Right.
right? So I grew up very sporty and always competing with my brother. We were wild, we were competitive, we were always racing and always looking for that next adventure. Now, many of you may be going, snow in Australia? Really? I mean, most people, when they picture Australia, picture the Great Barrier Reef, white beaches, or maybe outback, out whoop whoop, we call
Right.
it
Right.
in the middle of Australia. But many people don't think about skiing and snow. But we have snow there from June till October,
Yeah.
and I grew up skiing from about the age of 2, and it is still my passion today, over 50 years later. And skiing has taught me so much. It taught me courage, right? I mean, skiing can be pretty scary, especially when you're
Absolutely.
learning. But you learn on those green runs, which are kind of, a mellow slope, and you learn to do a snow plow and control
Yep.
your speed. And then you're ready to jump on the chairlift and go up to those blue runs. And then all of a sudden, the fear comes back with a vengeance, and you're scared until you learn to do turns down the mountain. And slowly but surely, run by run, your confidence builds. And
Yes.
then you
Yes.
go up the chairlift to the top of the mountain. They call them the black diamond runs. And boy, your fear comes back again, and you have to find your courage and build your confidence once again. It's a step-by-step
Yeah.
process of building your confidence. And Audley, do you know what comes after the black diamond runs?
No, tell me.
Alaska. you start seeing, you start watching the films, and you start seeing people skiing and snowboarding on these big pointy peaks, leaving beautiful tracks down the mountain with powder snow flying over your head. And I remember watching that film, and a friend saying, oh, "Wow, those guys are just crazy. It looks so scary. I could never do that." And for some reason, I thought that the thoughts were just in my head, but they actually came out my mouth, and I went, I'm going to do that one day. And he said, yeah, right, Jen, sure, keep dreaming. He kind of challenged me, right?
Okay.
He challenged me to think I
Right.
couldn't do it. And about 2 years later, for my 30th birthday, I was over in the US at a trade show in Vegas,
Yeah.
looking at all the latest sporting products to bring back to our store. And I managed to jump in with a group of Australians to go up to Alaska to go heli skiing. And that was just a dream come true. I mean, when the helicopter landed and dropped us off
Yeah.
on the ridge line, I was in awe of the views, the mountains, and I felt like I was in that movie, that it sparked the
Mm.
dream. Here I was. It was like,
Right.
wow, this is incredible. And then I went, oh my God, I got to get down. And that's when fear and
Sure. Yes. Yes.
and I was terrified. But long story short, I fell in love with Alaska. I fell in love with the people up there. They were actually not just talking about sports like I had been doing all my life in the store when I'm selling sporting products. You're talking and sort of planting the seed of somebody's dreams. But up in Alaska, they were doing it. They were living that dream. And I met women that were just so badass. I mean, these girls were tough. A lot of them were single at that age, and they were having to go home and chop their own firewood for heat. And a lot of them didn't have running water in the winter time, because their pipes freeze. And so they were they were surviving and they were thriving, and they were getting out in the mountains and skiing and snowboarding and riding snowmobiles. And I wanted to be more badass, just like
Mhm.
those girls, right? And I saw many people who were living in RVs there in the mountains. They had decided that they wanted to live at the base of these mountains and adventure every day, and that seemed like a good, affordable way to do it. And so when I went back home to Australia after having this dream trip, I discovered that I wasn't very happy. From the
Mm,
outside, it looked like I had all those perfect ingredients to live that great life. My parents had taught me you need to have a business, which I had. I had my own house. I had a
right,
sports car. Um, I I had everything except that happiness
right.
that I think we all search for. And I realized that I'd been living the life that my parents had designed. I had just fallen into that, and it seemed like the right solution. But I realized that I saw other people living with a different formula. Just like you said, we're all on a different path.
Yes, yes.
And I wanted to test out that other path a little more. So, believe it or not, after a lot of tears and some therapy sessions, because I was getting quite depressed at this stage, I made the decision that I was going to sell the business, sell the house, sell the sports car,
Yeah.
and I was going to put all my favorite sporting equipment into a box and fly to the US, to Seattle. And I was going to ride my bike up and down the strip in Seattle to all the RV dealerships. And I was going to buy myself an RV and travel around Alaska
Okay.
by myself for 12 months until my visa ran out. And then I was going to head back to Australia and I'd figure out the next step.
Okay.
This was the adventure of a lifetime. And everybody thought I was crazy. But I think that learning to ski those big mountains and learning to overcome the fear and find the courage to make these
Yep.
bold, audacious moves in our lives, allowed me the courage to just pack up, switch my life into a new area and a new adventure.
So I love the conversation around fear because um the truth of the matter is the fear will always be there, even in the midst of doing the something dangerous or something risky or something that you've never done before. The fear is always there, and it's your ability to find the courage to do it anyways. And so you sort of touched on fear, but you also reinforced the importance of having the courage to still move forward.
That's exactly right. Alaska has taught me so many things over the years, and I've had some scary experiences,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And I've been caught in an avalanche. I've been charged by a polar bear.
Wow.
I've watched somebody fall into a crevasse and been there for the rescue. And so I've learned a lot about fear. And when you're charged by a polar bear, your primal fear response kicks in, right? You go into that fight, flight, and freeze. Of course, when it's a polar bear, it didn't matter how many signs I'd read saying, don't run, stand there, hold your ground, wave your arms, yell, hey, bear. What do you think I did? Oh man, I turned
You ran.
around
You're
and
not
I,
gonna say
I, I ran
I ran.
into flight, right? So I think our bodies, as much as we are programmed that we need to eat, we need to sleep, fear
Yes.
is something that is also programmed into us. It's a primal
Mm.
fear response, and there's no way we can get rid of that. I'm not a big fan of the word fearless because if you were fearless, you'd make some really silly, stupid decisions
Decision.
out
Sure.
there.
Sure. Sure.
When we feel fear, we go, okay, what's it telling me? What are the red flags, and can
Yes.
I can I deal with
Yeah.
them? Have I got a solution? Yeah.
The way you describe that, actually, if you really think about it, fear is kind of what keeps us safe. right? Whether we
Hmm.
realize it or not, fear lets us know that there's something there we need to be concerned about, as opposed to your point, being fearless. I have no fear. I think it's really around you're not letting the fear guide or dictate what your actions are, right? So I mean, I'd
Yep.
love to have that. I mean, I think a conversation around that is very important. People understand, that fear can't drive you or it shouldn't be driving you. But at the same time, if a fear appears, okay, what's there happening I need to be mindful of? And then you decide accordingly what your next steps are.
It so is when we feel fear, if we see fear as a threat, and you know what, it doesn't feel good. When we're in
Right.
fear and we perceive it as a threat, we get stressed, we get anxious, we want
Sure,
to run
sure.
away, and it's very natural to do that.
Totally.
So don't hit yourself up if you have been sort of running away from those things that scare you. It's totally natural. But I believe that if we see fear as a challenge, right? Kind of like my friend challenged me, oh, you can't go up to
Right, right.
facing it. You know what? I did. I went up to Alaska. What are you doing? So seeing it as a challenge is great. And the other thing that I love is falling in love with the adrenaline. You know my nickname? They call me Adrenagen.
Jen, that's
Adrenaline Jen. And
yeah, yeah, I love
it's
it. I
actually
love it.
my business name too. So Adrenagen, and adrenaline is also a natural reaction that happens when we feel fear to help us move forward. And adrenaline is not something that happens to crazy extreme sports athletes only, but it's actually something that keeps us safe, because
Yeah,
when
sure.
we are in that adrenaline state, we become very observant. Our senses are so aware, and it's incredible when I am skiing big mountains. There are a lot of dangers. You've got avalanches, crevasses,
Yep.
cliffs that you could drop off,
Sure,
and
sure,
it's
sure.
really important to be able to focus and have clarity and see the red flags that are out there and have the training. I believe that, we also need to have the training and the
Yes.
skills and practice them so that we can deal with those situations when they arrive.
So one of those situations, I want to go back to the polar bear thing. You ran. How did tell me about that? Like that's the cliffhanger
Grace.
right now, right? What's happening?
Oh
Like,
my God.
yeah, I mean,
Right, right.
you're here, so we know you got away. So did you outrun the bear? Is that what the?
Oh my goodness, it's such a crazy story. So I had been invited. I'm a professional kite flyer,
Okay,
right? And
okay,
I have been the Australian kite surfing women's champion in the waves. I'm one of the top snow kiters in the world. Snow kiting is where we use a kite to tow us up
okay,
mountains,
okay, okay.
essentially like having your own ski lift.
Yep.
And so I get some incredible opportunities as being a kite flyer. And I had the opportunity to go up to a remote village in Alaska to teach the Inuit kids how to fly kites
Okay,
and how to get towed around with their skis on them. It's a great form of transport over
okay,
snowy ground. And when I went up there, I knew that this town was famous for polar bears. And I had asked the locals when I got there, am I going to see a polar bear? I was quite excited to see one. But they told me, no, Jen, they're all far out on the sea ice this time of year in May. You've got to come back in August. And that's when all the photographers come in to get those beautiful National Geographic shots. So I was a little disappointed, but I let my guard down. And one night I went out to fly my kite at midnight. The sun was going to set at midnight, which I'd never seen before. And I took my kite, and I was with a couple of friends, and we had a couple of dogs with us. We took the dogs for a walk. And while I was flying my kite, somebody behind me yelled, "Bear, bear!" And I turned around and looked, and all of a sudden there was a polar bear charging directly at me. Now, it wasn't a long, long way away. It had come over a snow ridge, and so it was way too close. I mean, I could see its eyes. It was looking at me, and I was looking at it, and that's when I told you I turned and ran. And the only thing that sort of gave me comfort was I saw the backs of all my other friends who were running. So I felt like, okay, I'm doing the right thing. And then you have that thought, okay, if you're chased by a bear, just don't be the slowest runner. And you know what? I was at the back. I definitely wasn't the slowest runner, but I was at the back.
Right.
And the next thing I know, I fell flat on my face, and I couldn't quite figure out what had happened. It was so crazy, everything that was going on. And then I realized that I was still attached to my kite with a leash. We have a leash on our kite so that if you let go of the bar, the kite doesn't blow away. And so the wind was blowing my kite one way, I was running the other, and the kite essentially became an anchor. And
Okay.
so
Mhm.
I fell flat on my face. And when I got up, that polar bear was now, no joke, 100 feet away.
Oh boy.
100 feet away. And I was having thoughts like, this could be it. I don't have a weapon. But all I could think about was getting that leash off my wrist to let the kite go so that I could continue running away. And I did. I got that Velcro off my wrist, and the wind blew my kite away. At this point, I watched the bear turn and chase my kite.
Ah.
So, my favorite kite and my best friend, the wind, saved my life that
Yes.
day. And
Yes.
I had a chance to run back into the village and call for help. They do have what's called Polar Bear Patrol, and that's
Hmm.
some young tough guys on snowmobiles that patrol the outskirts of the village, trying to keep the bears out.
Right.
And
Right.
they turned up, and luckily the bear wasn't threatening my life at that point, and so they shot fireworks at it to scare it
Yeah.
out of the
Yeah.
village. If they
Wow.
had seen it charging me, they might have used the other gun with bullets. And i'm
Sure.
i'm so grateful that not only did I survive, but the
Yes.
polar bear survived
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. It was a happy
And
ending for
I
everyone.
happy ending for everybody. And what an experience, for me to be able to share that
Yeah.
story, and
Yeah.
to have been able to feel real fear. Sometimes we get scared in life. I mean, it's scary going live on Facebook. It's scary speaking on a stage. It's scary asking your boss for a raise.
Sure.
We
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
scared all the time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but are our lives really in danger?
No. No.
No, it's
No.
a, it's a
No.
different sort of fear. So I love sharing these stories and this knowledge with people.
Yeah. Oftentimes, the turmoil that goes on is happening in our heads. There's so much that we create based on the fear. We kind of start with the fear, and we either we develop stories, or maybe we adopt other people's stories, or something we saw somewhere, and it becomes our reality. And it's nothing. None of it's based on anything except for what we created in our minds. And so, I think it's a really important point that you make there.
Yeah, I mean, when I ask people what they're afraid of and they hear my Aussie accents, the most common thing is spiders, snakes, sharks. I mean, yeah, I come from Australia and we have a lot of
Oh
those,
yes.
and especially Americans, they tend to have a fear of spiders. I mean, in my
Yes.
household, although my husband is over 6 foot and a big, tough heli ski guide and an incredible athlete, if there's a spider in the house, it's definitely my job to take care of it because
That's
I've had
funny.
I've had way more experience.
That's funny. That's funny. I would love to get into a conversation around resiliency with you, and I think given your experience having major spinal surgery and having that to impact your life in the way it did, but being able to still get to the other side of that and still do the things, and be in the extreme space where you want to be, where your heart has led you. There definitely is a certain mindset required to be able to get past that and get to where you got to. I wanted you to talk about that experience, and what was the difference in the mindset for you?
Great question, Audley, and I love talking about this.
Thank you.
Now, I mentioned that my brother and I were into all these sports when I was a kid, but at the age of 9, and I was 11, my brother was 9, he came home from school one day with a sore leg, and my dad said, "Oh, brush it off, he'll be right." And Mum just had that mother's intuition that something didn't feel quite right, and she took him down to the hospital. and had some x-rays and tests. And the next day, we were told something that no kid or family should ever hear, and that is my brother had cancer. He had bone cancer, and his best chance of survival, which was very, very small anyway, was having chemotherapy and amputation.
Mm.
So this was a really, really tough time uh, in our family, but also something that I'm so grateful for because my brother taught me resilience. I watched him as a 9-year-old have his leg amputated, and then I watched him learn to ski on one leg. My parents had friends
Mm.
who specialized in teaching people with disabilities how to ski. And it was only weeks later, he was still on chemo. He had a completely bald head, and he was learning to ski on one leg. And I remember I told you we were very competitive. So, of course, I took one ski off, and I was learning to ski on one leg too so that we could race.
Right.
Didn't take him long to start beating me, and I had to put two skis back on to keep up. But watching my brother and his mindset over those teenage years was incredible because he had this mindset. I like to call it the MacGyver mindset of we can fix it. We can
Right.
figure it
Right.
out. We just need to adapt. We need to adapt the gear. When he wanted to learn how to windsurf, my dad helped build a peg leg out of PVC pipe for him
Wow.
with a rubber disc on the bottom. So he had a waterproof option, and learning to windsurf's hard, and we were all falling in a lot, and my brother fell in twice as many times, 3 times as many times as I did. Yet he figured it out and he became a really good windsurfer. And we used to race on rollerblades, and he would use his
Mm.
crutches for push poles. His stump was too small to wear an artificial leg, so he had to figure out how to do everything on one leg.
I love that.
So this was a mindset that I grew up with that became kind of like there's always a way. There's always a way that we can figure out how to get through. So when I had some of my own struggles in life, like starting to get that sore back, who can relate? Who can relate to having a sore back? I bet you there's a lot of people putting their hands up out there. And my sore back got worse and worse, and finally I had those tests, and I was told that I was going to have need spinal surgery. And
Mm.
that is something that brings up that fear again,
Right.
Audrey. And I know a lot of people who haven't had the surgery because they were just too scared, and they have lived for years and years and years with a sore back. But I decided that it was the best thing for me so that I could get back to my sports. And I remember being in the office talking to the surgeon about the operation. And of course, athletes are into visualizing. And this is something everybody should do, visualizing the outcome, visualizing what you want. And when I was sitting in that doctor's surgery, I remember visualizing that I'm going to get this surgery. It's going to take me about 12 months to recover, but I'm going to get back to my sport of kite surfing. And are you still there?
Yeah, I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
My computer's doing crazy things.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Give
Your
me,
vision. I heard you.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
visualizing it. Yep.
So I started visualizing that I was going to get back to kite surfing. And not only was I going to get back to my sport, I was going to be the Australian women's kite surfing champion. And this doctor was going to put a poster of me on his wall
Love it.
kite surfing so that when other people came into the office and said, "Oh, am I going to be okay afterwards?" He would point at that post and go, "Well, Jenny here had a spinal fusion, and she went on to become a champion kite surfer." That
Beautiful.
was the visualization that I created in that office.
Yes.
And you know what? I had the spinal surgery. Yeah, it wasn't too pleasant, but step by step, I felt like just like my brother dealt with his disability, this was something that I was going through, and it wasn't going to last forever. And I started training, and I started doing my PT because I was training to be a champion athlete.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Even a week after that surgery, if all I could do was tighten my core muscles while I was lying in bed, well, I was going to do it. And it took me 3 years after that spinal surgery, but I did. I went on to compete and become the Australian women's kite surfing champion. And
Beautiful.
believe it or not, I was 48 years old when this
Wow.
happened, right?
Wow.
I talk
No.
about having an ageless attitude, and the
Yes.
other women that I was competing against were half my age. They were all
Mm,
in their early 20s.
yeah.
And so, but I had the dream, I had the vision, and nothing was going to stop me. I was just going
Love
to
it.
have that MacGyver mindset, and I was going
Love
to
it.
figure it out.
I love it. And what I love about that story with all that you accomplished and overcame and and became champion, and one of the most important things that you fulfill that vision is you got your picture on the wall. And having that picture on the wall serves as an inspiration to everyone that comes after you because you've now showed them what is possible.
That is so true, and that is definitely my why is leaving those stories of hope out there, and it's something I constantly do. It's why I write books. It's why I speak on stages, is so that I can share my lessons that I've learnt in
Yeah.
life. We all go on those journeys, as you said, we're all on a different journey, but if we can actually share those lessons with others, that's what's going to help them decide which way they want to go,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and give them hope that it is actually possible. Tony Robbins said something that really stuck with me, and he said a lot of great things, but he asked the question one day, is there more knowledge in a graveyard or a library?
Mm, good question.
Good question. I mean, my answer and most others was there's actually more knowledge in a graveyard because
Yeah.
most people take their knowledge and all the lessons they've learned,
Yes.
all their
Yes.
stories with them to the graveyard. And I decided then and there that I didn't want to do that. I was gonna tell my stories. I
Yes.
was going to write books, and I was going to go on podcasts like this one and talk and share my stories with as many people as I can out there, because it just
Beautiful.
could change somebody's direction in life.
Jenny, I will tell you, and I agree with you. I think the power of sharing is so, so important and incredible and transformative in so many ways. And when you think about it, look, you and I are having a conversation now. We have no idea who's going to hear it, how many to take those lessons, and how they're going to impact lives. We don't know that, but we're just sharing because there's some value in it. And to know that, we potentially can have an impact on someone's life unknowingly just for this with this talk is just a beautiful process to be a part of. And the other part that I do really appreciate about this is, I mean, just think for a moment. You're going through an incredibly challenging experience. In that moment, you're more than likely thinking that nobody on the planet has any idea what you're feeling, what you're going through, and what you experience, right? It has no, you're thinking you're on this isolated island by yourself. And then you hear someone say, yeah, I had that, but this is what I did to get through it. And it's over, right? Like that is so incredibly inspirational. It's empowering, it's uplifting. And so by you sharing and you putting out there as many different platforms as possible, and I have nothing but appreciation for sharing this on this your story on this platform. It's such a beautiful, beautiful thing. And so thank you for doing so.
It only takes one person to hear
Yeah,
these stories,
yeah, yeah,
one
yeah, yeah.
person. And so, and everybody's got a story to tell. I like to think of it that we're all like a cocktail. Australians are made up of lots of different nationalities. If I told you my whole backstory, I've got so many nationalities in me, and and we all have knowledge. We've all learned from different teachers. We've all read different books. We've all had different experiences in life. So we're all an individual cocktail, and we all have a story or something to
Yes,
share that is
yes.
unique as well, that can help somebody.
So on the topic of sharing, I mean, look, listeners, and we pro always and often about living, embracing challenges and living more audaciously. And so, if there was a piece of advice that you give to someone who wants to step outside of their comfort zone, let's just say, even when the fear is there, what would you tell them?
I've got something that I tell myself a lot that
Okay,
that
okay,
really helps.
okay,
Okay. And that is that fear can be the problem that holds us back, but courage is the solution that moves us forwards. And you know what? Confidence is the reward from taking those steps. We all want confidence in life. Everybody's looking for more self-confidence. A lot of people want confidence first, but I'm not going to do that until I'm feeling more confident. Well, confidence is the reward. You don't get the gold medal or the trophy before you take the race.
right,
You need to overcome the fear and find the courage, and even if it's just something small like skiing on that green run, as I mentioned, celebrate
yes,
celebrate every step that you take. Celebrate every day that you've made one small step towards your goal, because celebrating feels really good, and it motivates you. That's the mindset of an athlete. Is we love to win, we love to succeed,
sure,
but we
sure,
also know that it takes a lot of dedication and desire to get there, a lot of training. And not only do we need to go to the gym to work our muscles, to get our physical body ready, but we also need to train our mind. And I'll leave you with this one. When fear says not you, adrenaline says watch me. Hmm.
love it, I love it, I love it. On the pathway of overcoming adversity, you continue to do so. You had to recover from brain surgery as well, which is another challenge that you had to overcome. And I'd love to sort of hear, what kept you going during your recovery. And again, for listeners who are going through life altering crisis, what would you tell them in terms of advice?
We are all going to have hard times in our life. We're going to lose loved ones. We might have something go wrong with our health, and there's going to be those hard times. And I think that dealing with my back surgery, in a way, the universe was gifting me the training and experience to deal with the next thing that happened, which was only last year that I got diagnosed with brain aneurysms and
Mm,
required to have not one, not two, but three brain surgeries last
wow.
year. And that was terrifying. It was out of my control.
Yes,
All I could do was try to find that courage to get myself to the hospital and into that room. And one of the most powerful things that helped me to reduce my stress level, and believe me, I was terrified. I wanted to fight, right? I
yes,
was angry with the situation. I wanted to flight. I wanted to run away, but I knew that those surgeries were the only thing that was going to save my life. And I was frozen in fear. The night before my surgery, I remember being frozen on the bathroom floor, lying in a puddle of my own tears.
mm,
And then I remembered what I tell my students. I teach a lot of people to snow kite and kite surf, and they experience fear. And when we're scared, we always think about those what ifs. What if
yes,
I die? What if I have a
yep,
stroke? What if
yep,
my husband has to look after me? I had all these what ifs running through my head constantly, like a hamster wheel. Rather than focusing on the what ifs, focus on the facts, right? What are we dealing with? And you know what? I be brave. I be strong.
mm,
I be lucky. And I be loved. And I be so grateful for my life. I am the storm. And I
yeah,
chanted that over and over and over again. It was still going round and round in my head when they put in the anesthesia and I
yes,
finally went to sleep. I filled my brain with those I be statements
Yes.
rather than the what if statements.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, there was no room for a hamster in my head anymore because
Beautiful.
I was feeling that I was brave and I was strong enough to deal with this. And
Yes.
I woke up the next day in ICU, so grateful, blessed to be alive, feeling that I had a I had a purpose in this life. And my husband came in, gave me a kiss on the cheek, and he handed me something that was really special to me. He handed me a kite.
Beautiful.
Okay. And this kite was really small, made out of tissue paper and toothpicks. And I
Mhm.
got that kite out and I flew that kite over my head. I mean, I still had all the IVs in my
Yeah.
arms,
Yeah. Yeah.
plugged into the machine beeping. I was in tears, I was in shock. But once I started flying that kite, it made me realize. First of all, it brought a smile to my face,
Yes. Yeah.
and I remembered the joy that I get from flying kites, and it made me realize that I'm still here. I still have purpose. I need to
Yes.
set that vision again, the
Yes.
vision of what am I going to do, and I decided because I'd been looking for stories of hope and I was struggling to find one. And I decided that I was going to share my stories. I was going to get back to my sports. I was going to write a book. I made a decision to write a children's book, and when I told my brother, he said, "What are you doing that for? You don't like children, and you hardly ever read." I said, "This is not for
A
me.
nice
This is for the
combination, if you ask me. A
yeah."
nice combo.
This children's book is not for me. It's for the kids out there and to bring them courage. And it's called Gale and the Red Kite of Courage. And it shares that doing something like flying a kite can bring us so much joy when we're having a tough time, and to believe that anything is possible. And that book is raising money for a children's cancer
Beautiful.
society to help kids and families with cancer, just like my brother and I went through. It's and that is something that makes me feel good. It makes me feel proud. It makes me feel like I have a purpose in this world. But you
Yeah.
know what? I got back in the water kite surfing only 2 weeks ago now. I am back. I can now
Oh,
tell that
wonderful.
story that even if you go through brain surgery, and the doctor told me I needed to give up all my sports. He said, "No, you're done. you you're over 50, you've had three brain surgeries, it's time to settle down." But that's not me. And I would rather live my life taking some bold risks, being
Yeah.
audacious, as you said,
Yes.
because that is the path that I am taking in my life, and I hope you do too.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And so, and again, what we can continually encourage here is always and often, Jenny, your stories, they're not just about, adrenaline, it's about resilience, passion, the human spirit. And I'm hearing that. And it's so powerful. And I'm wondering, what is one message that, you'd want listeners to take away, given all your experiences and things that you've overcome and got to the other side of and look back on it and how they become stories that you can share. What's the one thing you want listeners to take away?
I think when it's our time, when our time on this planet is over, the most important thing is to be proud of ourselves, to be proud of what we have achieved, be proud of what we have done. And it's that one moment is going to be really special because I made some really big decisions recently about making sure that I was proud of what I did and what I left here on this planet. And I encourage everybody to share your stories, no matter how hard they are to talk about. They, by doing that, by being vulnerable, that is going to help somebody else out there get through their tough times.
Beautiful, beautiful. Jenny, or rather, Adrenagen, I really should say, appreciate you for sharing the way that you have, Congratulations on your journey. I don't think that there's enough words that can be how powerful that is and impactful that is to other people to go through this pathway, to accept those challenges head on, and to plow through them to get to the other side. Is so inspiring, and there's no question in my mind that listeners are hearing and are impacted by just your story because it's a beautiful thing. So thank you for that, and thank you again for taking the time to be here on the Audacious Living Podcast. But before we go, I want to give our audience a chance to follow up with you on your journey. If people want to connect with you and learn more about your story or your work or what you're up to, where can we send them?
Oh, thank you so much. Please reach out. I would love to hear your stories as well. So reach out on any of my social media platforms. You'll find me at Adrenagen on Instagram, on Facebook. You can find me on LinkedIn. And also, if there's anybody out there that has resonated with my story and thinks it can help the people in your community, please invite me to come and speak on a stage at an event near you. I would love to share this with as many people as possible. So reach out, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for having me, Audley.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. We're going to make sure the contact details are in the show notes below. And thank you so much. This has been awesome. And again, Jenny, congratulations on all the success.
Thanks for having me. Thank you so much. This was so fun.
Back we are here on the podcast, and it was such a powerful conversation with Jenny. One of the main points that resonated deeply was her perspective on fear as a challenge rather than a barrier. She emphasized that while fear is a natural response, it can be reframed into something that we can overcome. This shift in mindset allows us to approach our goals with courage and determination. Personally, I absolutely love Jenny's energy and the way she shared her stories. Her experiences from navigating extreme sports to facing health challenges serve as a beacon of hope. I was particularly struck by her message about the importance of celebrating small wins along that journey. It really is a reminder that every step, no matter how small, is worth acknowledging and can lead to greater achievements. If you felt inspired by Jenny's story and want to connect with her directly, you can find all her contact details in the show notes. She's so eager to hear from you and continues to share her journey with the world. Additionally, Jenny does have a special offer for our listeners. Share her new children's book, Gale and the Red Kite of Courage, which aims to inspire kids and families about facing cancer. So be sure to check that out. That also you can find on her website. As we wrap up today's episode, I want to thank you for tuning into another edition of the Audacious Living Podcast. Remember, just like climbing that mountain, every step you take in your audacious life is meaningful. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to like, follow, subscribe, or share with someone who you think could benefit from our message. Of course, your support helps the podcast to grow and reach even more listeners. Always remember, when fear arises, think of it as a challenge waiting to be conquered. Embrace your journey, celebrate those small wins, and share your story with the world. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.